Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of the Unlaced podcast. Thank you so much for all your support this year. I say it at the start of every episode. If you are new here, thank you for coming along. Please give us a like and subscribe. It's how we grow. And if you've come back, as I always say, I absolutely love you. Last week episode, the Australian Football Bonanza with Fahid Ben Khalfallah and Rashid Mahazi. Absolute debate and a half. Those two blokes were arguing pretty much the whole podcast. So hopefully you found that fascinating. We've kind of come back to a level playing field today because we always love to get different athletes on. And I've been an admirer of this man for a number of years because of just the rigors of his, battles for his position and also some of the journeys that he's had to go on to get in the position he is today. Pretty impressive. Harry Grant, welcome to the show, mate.
Thanks for having me, mate.
Hey, it's first time on this podcast, obviously, as well.
First time on a podcast. First time doing a podcast in a little sus bus.
Sus bus, yeah. What's the sus bus thing you were talking about before? You've got your own truck down or something?
Yeah, I got a little van down just to get away from Melbourne for weekends, go down the coast or whatever. So got a bed in the back and just call it sus bus.
Fuck, man. Do you
What's this one called? What did you say it was?
Wow.
Rolling Studio.
Rolling Studio. Yeah, that's on camera. That's the on camera name. Off camera, it's got a different one.
Yeah, I thought,
mate, do you struggle living in Melbourne at all? Like with your sort of like, I feel like coming from like Rockhampton or like country Queensland and so forth. Yeah. It's a bit of a different speed here.
I'll pull you up to start. I can't claim Rockhampton. I got to claim Yeppoon.
Yeppoon. Okay.
It's 30 minutes. It's 30 minutes east of Rockhampton. But mate,
Wikipedia let us down there.
It's separate. It's
really?
Rockhampton's Cameron Munster territory.
Oh, so you don't want to be affiliated with that.
You don't want to be. You don't want to be with him.
How do you call it? Yeppoon.
Yeppoon,
right?
So it's a nice little coastal town. You travel 30 minutes inland, you get to Rocky, and it's like you're running into the Cameron Munsters and Tim Glasby's, like those kind of people. It's like,
horrible humans.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Man.
But no, I was pretty fortunate the way I sort of transitioned from like out of school, went to the sunny coast for 2 years where I played under 20s and then down here to Melbourne. I reckon it would have been a big move going straight from Yeppoon straight down into Melbourne. But we're pretty fortunate here. Like we all got each other, like everyone's moving interstate. So we all rely on each other. Like we're always doing stuff together, which is cool. It was probably hard at the start. Like I used to try and go home any chance I'd get. It's like it costs you an arm and a leg, and you spend most of the time traveling. But I'm settled in now, which is good.
How long have you been here now, all up? Because I know you've had stints away from the club, but from sort of day one to now, how long's that actually been?
I moved down at the end of 2017.
Fuck, it's a long time, man.
Yeah.
Jesus. So you're practically local.
Yeah, practically local. pay your tolls, mate. You're in Richmond.
Pay your tolls, yeah, shit. Well, it's pretty crazy, man. When I look at your career, like for someone who, like you played 50-odd games in the NRL, and I don't know if this, like for you, has caught you off guard, but like Rookie of the Year, an Origin winner, World Cup winner, you're obviously now the starting hooker for Melbourne Storm. Like it's pretty quick growth, and especially in the last 12 to 18 months. Like has that sort of been surreal for you?
Yeah, I guess the last couple of years have kind of just happened, and I think I've just been very fortunate timing wise. Like if I look back on a lot of things, like I don't know, I just feel like timing's a big thing. It's sort of fallen in my favour in a way, but also pretty lucky. Like with the apprenticeship, I've kind of done like in terms of like playing so much football in like lower grades, and then like getting all that experience. So like when I sort of did start playing NRL, I felt like I was ready, like rather than just like, getting thrown in the deep end. Yeah,
because I reckon you had a real sort of like tough upbringing to get your first sort of gig in the NRL. I mean, not only were you playing sort of some lower grade stuff or Q Cup stuff to get games in, but then also you've come into the Storm. I think Cameron Smith was there when you were there.
Yeah, Smithy was there. He was there. Well, I started, in under 20s, like 2016, 2017. So
right,
I was sort of still doing a little bit. I got experience to train with like the full-time squad then, and then 2018 was like my first full season down here, and so that was like 3 years with Smithy there. Like so, I'm very lucky with that. And then Brandon as well. Like me and him sort of play like similar, on the field. So. And we get on well off it. So.
Yeah, which is quite like, because I actually have a whole topic on this, but maybe we'll just dive into this now. But because I found I think it's pretty amazing because it is pretty competitive in sport. And was evident for obviously a while that it was either you or him to play. But then from the outside, you guys look like best mates as well. So it was kind of like unique.
Yeah.
Like, how did you balance that? Like,
No, I think like, you know, everyone in sport, everyone's competitive, but down here, like we're just like, we just want to, you know, whatever's best for the team. And like when you got people that are trying to get better and you can better each other, I think that's what, makes the club pretty special. And no matter what position, I think like there's so much competition in all positions. So everyone's trying to better each other. And like I said, we all rely on each other. So
yeah,
you know, you can have that competitive rivalry if you choose to take it that way on the training paddock or on the field, but then off the field, you're sort of there for each other. But me and Brandon were just like, let's just do whatever's best for the team and try and win games.
Because how was that managed through those couple of years where you guys were obviously, like Brandon was pretty elite, started to kind of come through, and you obviously had your stint at the West Tigers, which kind of put you on the map in a sense, which we'll go through. But like, was there sort of instruction from Bellamy on how he would utilise you two, or was it kind of, you know, who's training or who's playing well will get the gig?
Yeah, I came back from the West Tigers, and then Belzer was kind of like, I think I was gonna like start, and then whether Brandon continued to play like the role he was, and then I got injured. Like I did my knee in the trial, not bad. Like I did MCL. I think I had 4 or 5 weeks out, and then Brandon started the year, and he just started so good.
Oh shit!
And then like for the rest of the year, like he was just like starting. He'd play like the first 20 minutes, and then I'd come on, and then he'd move to like into lock.
Right.
And that's sort of where we formed a good combination of like, he'd do all the hard yards, tire everyone out, and then I'd come on fresh and take advantage of it. And
looking golden.
Yeah. And then we'd just sort of work together like that. And yeah, to be fair, like it's just weird how things happen. It just worked out well. And we're both happy to do that for the team and for the coach, because whatever Belzer says goes.
Yeah, I've heard. Before, because I actually probably know, I'll stick on Brandon Smith, because for me, did you have an idea that he was always going to move, like when that sort of competition was up for grabs, or did you think potentially he might stick around?
Yeah, no, not really. I didn't really think he was going to move. Like, but at the end of the day, it's only a short career. 100%. Like you just got to do what you got to do. And I was already penciled in here for a little bit longer, and he had to do what he had to do for footy, but I was prepared. Like we were probably both prepared, but at the end of the day, like I said, he seems like a fucking ripping bloke. Yeah, he's a ripping bloke. He seems so funny. What was the thing he said the other day about the bloke going to rugby union?
Oh, he's like 1.6 million might help you beat the All Blacks. It's like about his own teammate.
That's just typical Brandon.
Yeah,
he's got something for everything.
Oh, mate, he was like on song. Yeah. He was so good.
He used to always just go at Craig and like,
did he really? Yeah, there'd be some good stories.
Yeah, there's some good stories there.
What did they have a good relationship?
Yeah, they had a really good relationship. I think Belzer, like, you know, did a lot for him as well. Like, he'd be the first to admit, like when he first came down from Townsville, he was like, you know, he had a few loose screws, but
indiscretions.
But mate, where he's got himself to, it's good credit to him. Like,
yeah, it's a little bit, because when I come from the soccer background, even in the AFL background, like when you move clubs, you usually wait to the end of the season or the last year, like the end of your contract kind of, where it's in the balance. In NRL, and particularly the Storms had quite a few use cases of this with Addo Carr, the Bromwich boys, and obviously Brandon Smith. They announce it like before the start of their last season.
Yeah.
Which I think is fucking crazy, because then it's like everyone knows you're leaving.
Everyone questions you then, like, oh, you have a bad game.
Why is that? Why don't people wait?
I don't know. I think it's just, I guess, security. I think there could be change coming, like going forward with everything, but like they have like a sort of window after November 1st, I think it is. You can negotiate for not that year, like, but the following year kind of thing. So if you're off contract. But then, like everyone questions you, like, oh, where's your head at? Like, you know, do you want to go play for the team that you've signed for in 2 years' time? It's like, nah, like once you go and play, it's like,
well, yeah, because if you look at
just want to win.
All those players when they played that last year, you wouldn't know the way they played, they were leaving. But at the same time, there's just that natural stigma, like,
And then it's a bit more motivation because you're like, well, it's their last year. You want to, do well for them. But
True.
Unfortunately for us, last year it didn't go that way. But
Now, my only insight, and I'll get this right now in Yeppoon, is because I want you to take me to what it's like to grow up as a kid there, because I got no idea. I've grown up in the city of Melbourne, as you can tell, what it would be like. But my only example, and I heard you talk about this, is a story about your dad and the way his sort of lifestyle. And I think correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but he has like a little bar out the back, or like a little private area, and he just sits there and drinks cans, and different people through the day of his mates will come in and have a few cans, and they'll just get on and keep going. Like it's just a revolving door. Yeah. That's my only insight into Yeppoon. That sounds like fucking fun.
Yeah, he's living the dream, isn't he?
Yeah, solving the world's problems and shit, I can imagine.
He's got this little bar set up, and he like at home, and he's just like, I know why he doesn't go anywhere. He just stays there, and like everyone comes to him. It's good. Like, he's got it pretty good. But like our house is kind of like on the way past like some of his mates' house. So, and our neighbour's really close. Our neighbour's in like every day drinking cans with him. Yeah,
how good's
pretty
that?
Funny. But yeah, it's a small little community. Like it's everyone's popping in all the time. It's good time.
How did you gravitate towards footy? Like when did that come into your sort of age?
I got 3 older brothers, mum and dad. Both heavily involved in sport. Like mum's a PE teacher back home. She's played sport her whole life, and dad played sport his whole life too. So it was probably inevitable. And footy was probably the main one. Like my brothers were all playing, and I think I was 4, and I was like, if they're playing, I want to play. Yeah. So I started pretty early, but I played every sport like under the sun. Whatever I could play to try and get a day off school. Yeah. Like if there was rep teams, I was like, I'm trying to make that rep team. I was doing like cross country and like AFL aquathons, like just to make rep teams, just to get a time off school. But but I always probably knew like footy was
number one.
Yeah, what I wanted to do.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know about you, but like for me on the outside, it seems like if I'm a Brisbane Broncos fan, I'd be fucking fuming. I mean, obviously they've got so many good players up there, you're going to miss out on a few, but they did have a crack at you, didn't they, when you were like before the Storm?
Yeah, a little bit. Like a lot, like they have, or back then, like it was like the Broncos and Cowboys, they had access to pretty well everyone in Queensland, and like you're always just in there like little talent identification groups. So it's like, I think it's like once a month or something, like you're training. Okay. They come to like say Rocky, and everyone in the area like comes in and like does a session with them. Like you get a Broncos kit, and I think they were keen to sort of do a little bit more with it. Yeah. And I was still in school, and Dad was like, "Oh, we'll just wait." Like he didn't really tell me, but he's just like,
well, he didn't tell you.
Nah, he's just like, oh, like when I talked to him about it, he's just like, you're still in school, like there's no real benefit. Like
it's fucking smart.
You want something, after school where it's going to lead to something where you can just, I feel like a lot of, kids, I guess, just think you're going to play professional sport when you're 15, 16, 17. And you look at a lot of guys that are signed up, you'd be the same. And like every sport would be the same. Like a lot of guys that are signed up at 15 to these contracts in school, like,
they're not around.
They just sort of fizzle out.
Yeah, they're not around.
They've got no,
So true. Do you know what? That's as a kid though, like you wouldn't, it's probably wise he didn't tell you because you wouldn't understand that.
Yeah, you don't understand
probably only until now, maybe you start getting like, fuck, that was a good call.
Yeah. And you look at like NRL now, and it's like so many players are like debuting at like mid-20s, like, like so much experience, and like under 20s, Q Cup, New South Wales Cup, whatever. Like look at Nico Hines, like his
story's crazy.
He's 27, and it's like, he's only come onto the NRL scene in the last couple of years. So
did you know from what you saw of him at Storm that he had like Dally M qualities?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna tell a little story here. Please. I'm gonna claim his success.
That's a big call.
Not his success, but he owes me a beer. Yeah. So we were playing Q Cup. Like I was playing for the Sunny Coast Falcons. It was 2018, and Chris Flannery is the CEO up there for the Falcons. And I was having a beer with him, and we just played Nico. And there was another guy, Kyle Laybut. He played a little bit at the Cowboys, but we're playing the Mackay Cutters. And Flano's talking to me. He's like, "Oh, for the Falcons, I want to sign a 5'8" for next year." He's like, "Oh, I'm looking at Laybut or Nico." And I was like, "Oh yeah." And I didn't know Nico from a bar of soap, but I knew like he was a good bloke. Like you could just tell he's a good bloke. And he loved the beach, he loved surfing and that. And I
were they your two priorities before football?
Yeah, pretty well. And I was just like to Flano, I was like, oh mate, Nico, he's a gun. Like, yeah, sign him up.
No way.
Anyways, long story short, he signed with Falcons. He got a preseason down here, and then we actually formed a really good bond in that preseason. And then we played the rest of the year together for Sunny Coast Falcons, and he got signed up that year. And I was just like, I always remind him, like, mate, if I didn't tell Flano, if I didn't tell him then, like, who knows? You could
wait. So you've gone to the CEO of the Sunny Coast team. What are they called?
Yeah, Falcons.
Falcons. Yeah,
Chris Flannery. He's a legend.
So you've gone to the CEO of the Falcons, Chris Flannery, that he should sign Nico Hines based off him looking like a good bloke and liking the beach.
Yeah, pretty well.
He's gone doing a Dally M.
Pretty well. I was just like, yeah, mate, not Nico. He's the one.
Harry Grant, the scout of the century. My God, that's unbelievable. But he's another one. So I know I mentioned about Brandon Smith, but like, not that I know these boys, but I know some people that know him, but like no one's ever said a bad word about Nico Hines.
Nah.
He seems like, again, like another good bloke. Like, was that sad to see him go?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, I think if you look at our team or like a squad, like every NRL squad, it's like so many like people come and go, and it's like, but it's so cool that you just meet so many people from all different walks of life, and like we got Justin Olam, like he'd be one for you to get on, mate.
Yeah,
his story is crazy.
Oh,
like,
absolutely, have to
for you to like his story from where he's like come from, for him to be playing like NRL for the Melbourne Storm now.
Oh.
It's just like so cool to like be exposed to that. And it's like, yeah, we're so lucky we get to do that.
Man, I reckon he'd probably be the last person on my list in the NRL to run through me.
Yeah.
I think he actually might be the last one, because I've seen him run through big people before and they like don't move.
He's got a nickname, Fear. So.
Really? Yeah. That's so right. Because like he seems like a nice guy too, which they scare me the most.
Yeah.
Because he's just like, he balls people over. What's his background? He's got the obviously.
Just PNG, but
PNG.
He like grew up like in the villages up there. Like his story's like,
oh man, we'll have to get him on.
Yeah.
We'll have to get him on.
He's walking hours a day just to get to school, and like,
oh my God.
He tells this one story where he's like, they got like chickens, and like they have to put the chickens away before dinner and stuff. And he's like, oh, sometimes we just like fall on the chickens, and that way, like if it dies, we know we're having chicken for dinner.
like the fake trip.
The fake death.
Wow.
It's like that's his like
proper
childhood.
hardship.
Yeah, proper. Like, man, he's just like such a crazy story. And it's just like,
fuck, man, that'll keep you humbled. Because
sure.
I don't know what it is. I'm keen to go into a bit of like the Storm culture and what makes it unique in a sense. But everyone I've ever spoke to from there, we get a lot of athletes on the show. It's not to say people are arrogant or cocky, but they're like, you wouldn't know you guys play at the level you do and have achieved some of the things you do, because everyone, like you could be like you saw me outside before, you're like, you want to hop in so I don't get wet, like, do you know what I mean? Like that shit, like why everyone at Storm seems to have that.
I guess I don't know, it's a hard one. Like,
do you notice it though, like, or you just like you're used to it now? Because I think it's pretty unique, man.
I think we're just fortunate from the get-go. There was a lot of good people involved. We still got like a lot of those people still involved, but you look at, say, like Robbie Kearns, like who started, like was one of the founders of the club, or not founders, but like foundation players, Matt Geyer, like
stalwarts,
all these guys that are just like absolute cracking blokes and like just do anything for anyone. And like, they knew that they had to like do right by everyone down here to be able to like be successful, like, because it was a rugby league team coming to Melbourne. Everyone was like, nah, like it's probably not going to work. But those guys really laid the foundations, and then it just like passed on. Like you look at like Billy Slater, Cameron Smith, those guys, and what they got to in their career, and like the amount of time and like care they had for people. Yeah. And it's like, I don't know, I think we're just lucky that we just, being involved with a lot of those people. But in saying that too, it comes from your childhood. I think we got a lot of good people that sign on. Like if you're,
I feel like because one of the things that like Storm just keep poaching gems. I reckon like it's pretty critical that they have a good scouting system or whatever, because obviously we're not a rugby league town, but they seem, I reckon the criteria must be like the family background and stuff.
Yeah, you kind of got to be a good bloke. Like not like you can't.
Or
really
you got to be unbelievable.
You can't be a dickhead. Like you know what I mean? Like and like it's credit to player, like the the players in the organisation, the people at the top, but also like, yeah, the families that where like the boys have like been brought up. Like I know my family are hardworking and it's
honest.
Yeah. It's like you look at them and like,
Loves
they're
a
good.
beer.
Yeah, loves a beer. Doesn't like leaving the bar.
Shout out Harry Grant's dad. That's fucking awesome. He's probably going to watch this from that seat we're talking about, maybe.
If he can find it. He wouldn't know how to use a phone.
Yeah, true. They're too busy solving other more important problems.
Yeah,
fair enough. How was can you give me a little bit of insight? I don't know if last time we had a few of the Storm boys on, but it's been a while actually since we've had them on, but like just a little bit of insight into what actual Craig Bellamy's like, because I feel like the persona we get to see on the outside and what's in the inside might be very different.
Yeah. For me, it's like, I don't know, we probably see something like a whole different side of him now compared to like 10 years ago where they reckon he was, or 20 years ago when he was a hard nose, like just a hard edge. But he's like, everyone sees him in the box and I feel like that's his game day. You know what I mean? Like he's so passionate about the club, like the people and like winning that like he's so worked up in that 80 minutes.
Yeah.
So like if you see the boy, like you see a player that's got like a lot of passion on the field, it's like, it's no different to Craig in the box because he just, you know, he wants to win. He puts so much time and effort into it.
Which you love. You love to see that.
Yeah, you love to see, like he puts that much time into it. It's like, you know, he's earned that. Like to blow up at me if I like do something wrong. I'm like, yeah, no, you put a lot of time into it. But in saying that, like he's away from that, like the box, the 80 minutes a game, he's like a very like witty, funny, like
really,
you know, likable, like genuine guy. Like he's, you know, I think if you talk to a lot of the older boys that he's done so much for them and like someone that they can always, someone that they can always sort of rely on and he'll give you honest opinions, but yeah, he's actually like very, very funny. He's not one you want to go at. Like,
really?
He's
sharp.
He's very witty and like you don't really want to go at him. Like Brandon used to be a good one, but Cameron Munster now, they go at it. Yeah,
that would be good for change room.
I love that. They're real good. So anytime a meeting's getting a little bit like long or boring, Money just gets into it.
Really?
He bites. He always bites.
Does he? Yeah. Okay. Is there anything that he would say? Like, would you just tell him to shut up or something?
Oh, he's got anything under. Yeah, he's got some good comebacks.
Hey guys, just a quick break in this episode to share that I have partnered with Dabble, the gambling agency. Dabble is an incredible platform. It's similar to Instagram where you can copy bets off some of the absolute superstars of various games. It's absolutely awesome. Please make sure you do gamble responsibly, only bet what you can. And also, big news, for the next 12 months, I'm going to be doing a Tuesday stream between 7 and 8 p.m. where I'm going to be talking all sports, putting on bets with you guys and having absolute fun. You can find that within the Dabble app and it's there, as I said, every Tuesday night, 7 to 8 p.m, the Jake Barkadash live show. Make sure we see you there and we'll get back into the episode. Because we do a lot of AFL players, a lot of the listeners here would be interested, but like Joel Selwood, like that's not a lot of people saw that coming, but it probably is a match made in heaven because of like the Geelong culture and their success is very similar to like Melbourne Storm from an AFL sense. Yeah. But what's he been like to have around? Like, if people realise how big he is, I assume you guys would because you're from Melbourne.
Everyone like, I guess everyone's probably in the same boat. Like you know how big he is like as a player, but the person he is, he's so like humble and like
really,
he's such a laid, like in a way laid back, like he'd give everyone the time of the day and, you know, like help anyone that needs a hand. But I think he's good for us in a sense that he was thrown into leadership from a young age.
Yeah. And
for us, it's like we got a new sort of leadership group coming through, losing a lot of our experienced players.
Are you in that?
Yeah, I'm in that.
Yeah, big 25 in the leadership group.
Yeah, shit.
So who's in there? Welshie obviously is the captain.
So we got Welchie and then Jerome, Money, and myself are vice captains.
That's huge.
And then we got Paps. Paps would probably be there. Like probably have like 4 vice captains if Paps was there, but he's just been unfortunately like injured.
Yeah.
And then Tommy Eisenhuth, who's like he's a battler. He's got a great story. Like,
does he?
But he's just such an educated man. He's really good. So
is Joel Selwood, is his role around the club to be with you guys?
Yeah. So he's kind of like leadership mentor. So he's like,
that's cool.
So like he's sort of like doing a fair bit with us, and it's cool because he's not coming in like telling us, oh, you should do this in your game. Like you played like shit. Like
yeah. Okay.
He's basically come from a leadership
It's just a
point,
good
just
bloke.
going like, hey, like, you know, what did you say here? Or like, you know, what were your actions here kind of thing? Like,
You can't not be loved when you're in that role.
Yeah.
It's just fucking your bros everywhere.
Yeah. So, no, he's been really good. But like, I think Geelong are a lot more laid back in a way with their scheduling and that. But their ultimate like goal is just to work hard. Like that's Joel.
Yeah.
So like to have that balance is really good.
It's interesting because there's actually a thing that came out about Geelong recently. I didn't know this, Braden. You might know this, but they like their training schedules are much more like laid back than other AFL clubs.
Yeah.
Like they'll train less. Yeah, they train less.
Everyone, yeah.
But then I think it's like this is what people are now typical, like the journos turning on after sort of 2 defeats. But they're kind of saying like, well, when you obviously chilled out and training that way, but then when you come on game day, you see someone like Selwood throw his head on the ball and like kind of lifts everyone up. So you're like, oh shit. But maybe like they're saying, oh, now Selwood's not there. It's all
need that.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? But I reckon that's impressive.
Yeah.
I reckon that'd be hard to do.
Yeah, well, I feel like it's coming that way where like everyone has so much like outside of foot, like the sport as well. Like,
yeah.
I know you love your golf. Like,
yeah,
what do they call you? The Sandman?
Sandman. How do you know that?
I don't know, man.
How do you know that?
You spend a lot of time in the bunkers, eh?
Oh, mate. Serial bunker bloke. Like hit a tree and bounce like just drop right in the middle on the highest ridge. Like
just like the beach, eh?
Yeah, like the beach. And the thing is as well, I played one day with like me and my mate Geordie, we played with like a pro at this beautiful golf course. And I kept getting in the bunker, but he coached me out of it and there wasn't one double stroke in the bunker. And then I've left him. I'm like, I've got it. I've never, like 5 strokes to get out of the bunker. It's just right off the hole.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just
you play a bit of golf?
I try. I'm not good.
Yeah,
I'm going to get into it. Like,
you're like me.
Yeah, I'm a hacker, but I'm keen to put some time into it and get good. But like,
it's a fucking good pastime, man. Like I spoke to some like footy players around here, and obviously, maybe I'll be actually before that, like playing for Storm because like Harry Grant playing as a hooker for the Broncos or for the Roosters. I can imagine everywhere you go, you're noticed. Yeah. In Melbourne, is it like that? Because even though you are a superstar, like do people recognise you because it's a little bit more laid back here when it comes to NRL?
Loose term on superstar.
Yeah, World Cup winner. It's got to come with something.
Take what you get. Yeah. It's you probably don't get it noticed. Like there's probably some players like Paps. He's pretty noticeable, like with that mullet.
Yeah.
Munster. Yeah. Maybe when people had a few beers, like they can.
Yeah.
It can come out. Yeah. Everyone's got a bit of that.
That'd be braided.
Yeah. But it's good. Like you fly under the radar a bit, and in a good way. Like you do. Like it has its perks, that's for sure.
Yeah, okay. What was a big part for you in your career, and I think like a real breakthrough moment? And I don't think for people from the outside maybe realise how it wasn't as easy as what it maybe was perceived, but your loan move to the Tigers in 2020. I guess first off, how did that come about? And then through that, I mean, it must have been pretty crazy. You've gone straight into playing for a big club. Benji Marshall's there, and all of a sudden you're like in the thick of it.
Yeah. It was kind of weird. Like I said, I'd done a fair apprenticeship. Like I'd played 2 years of Queensland Cup, and like I felt like pretty confident playing like that level. But I wasn't really going to I was just like, I'll just keep doing what I have to do to bide my time. And it was like the off season, and Dad was like solving the problems at the bar, like solving the world's problems. And he just said to me, he's like, oh, why don't you maybe look at trying to go to the Super League for a year? And like,
what's the Super League for?
So like over in like the UK.
Oh, wow.
So it's basically like the NRL, but like the NRL.
Like Leeds Rhinos.
Like UK. Yeah,
Dude, it's huge there, man.
Yeah, it's
huge. They play at like the Premier League stadiums and stuff.
Yeah. So it's just like, it's just a different brand of footy. Like it's not, like they, St. Helens, they beat Penrith Panthers in the World Club Challenge. So like each year, like the two champions play off.
Good competition.
Yeah, it's a good competition. Like it's different to the NRL, but it's still like high grade footy. So Dad was kind of like, oh, why don't you go over there? And I was like, nah, you're mad. And then I started thinking about it. I was like, oh, you could go over, play a year and travel a bit, just playing footy and getting a bit of experience. So I was kind of like, oh yeah, may as well toss it up to the club. And then I spoke to Craig, and he's like, oh mate, I sort of said that to the staff at the end of season review, like, why don't we send Harry to another NRL club or something?
All right.
And I was like, oh. And he's like, do you want to do that? And I was like, oh yeah, if that works, I'd do that. So then he's like, oh mate, like, like players get injured all the time in trials. Like you might have to just wait till after the trials and then like go to a club or whatever. And then they had a relationship with the West Tigers, and then West Tigers were like, yeah, well, we're pretty keen on a hooker. Like they had Jacob Little, but he was injured. I think he'd done his knee and he was coming back from it.
Right.
So they're like, yeah, we're keen. So then the Storm were like, well, now we want to get something in return. So they're like, well, we'll do a loan. So like, you know, the Storm got an outside back, Paul Momorowski, and then I went to the Tigers.
Man, it's fucking crazy.
It worked out pretty cool in the end.
Well, can you tell me about that? Because like, did you feel ready at that point to play that role and obviously on the big stage? And did you know you were capable of what you actually did there? Because what you did was pretty...
I'd probably like, I was shit myself like when it was all going through. I was just like, I didn't know how it was going to be perceived like by my teammates and then like by like the West Tigers like team, like those players, and then like, the club and that. But at the end of the day, like I said before, like you go to when you get on the field and like you start training, like all you want to do is win. Like I was going there, like I just wanted to win. Like I wanted to help the team make finals. They had made, unfortunately we didn't, like, but that was like my goal. I just wanted to earn the respect of all the players there and the staff and that. But yeah, like if I look back on it now, it's like if I was at the Storm, like I wouldn't have even played Q Cup that year. So it would have been a whole year of like no footy because of COVID. So like there was no like second tier.
Fuck.
So like I would have just been like training like on the weekends. Like
that's crazy.
So I was like, I look back on it now, I was like, yes, it was really good timing.
Did you feel like, was that I mean, you might have felt it before, but did you feel like you were you could play at that level then? Like you established yourself in the NRL after that stint? Or?
Like my first 2 games, like, so I'd played 2 games before I went there for the Storm. And like, I was like, I was out on my feet like in those 2 games. So I was like, I was nervous as like going there. I was like, nah. And then I realized like I've done all the training, like training against boys every day. Like, and then so
arguably the harder games are at the Storm's training.
Yeah. And I was like, I was doing that traiing like for the last 3 years or whatever it is. So I was like, oh, like I should be right. And then I got in the game, like the first game, and I just felt comfortable and I was like, oh, this is all right. So
it's a pretty good feeling, eh? I don't think people get it, but like there is something about when you play well and initially you get the respect of your peers. Yeah. Like even at the Tigers, but also you've been winning stripes at the Storm.
Yeah.
It's fucking good. It's a good feeling, man. Because then all of a sudden you feel like, people know you can hold your own.
Yeah.
It's like an unspoken like eye contact in the change room.
You get a little bit of respect.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like it probably would have come your way. I assume did that help you? Obviously bought you some tickets with the Storm as well, the way the Tigers loan went.
Yeah, I reckon for sure. Like would have that was kind of the whole, goal of it is to get experience. And like I felt like I got that and I come back a bit more experienced. Like if I came back or didn't leave, sorry, I would have had 2 games. Yeah. Or maybe a couple more, but to my belt. Whereas we're going into 21, me and Brandon, and like I'd had a full season at the West Tigers and Brandon had played for a few years. So
okay.
Better result.
This might be a tough question, but what would you say is the hardest thing about playing in the NRL for some like an idiot like me that doesn't actually know what it's like, other than seeing Justin Olam just try and kill people when he's got the ball?
I'm lucky I play alongside Nelson. So.
Yeah, you set the bloke up. You throw it to him and you just sit back and watch him get leathered. How good is that?
It's pretty hard. Like
is it quick? It looks like it's lightning quick and fierce, but at times obviously
it's very quick. Like especially now, like with momentum, like the game, it's like you get on the front foot and like you're kind of under the pump. Like so much now compared to like say 5 years ago, where it was the game could be slowed down. Like they've sort of sped it right up to be more of a spectacle. And I don't know. It's a hard one.
Because I always think there would be like an element of like, you got to be really calm through the game, especially if you have like a bad set and then all of a sudden you're on the back foot and you're in like your back sort of half. It's like you can't get too emotional. You just got to like, that would be hard to do.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a hard question. I've never really thought about that. Yeah. Like I feel like it's just like for me, like I said, I've played since I was 4. So like
it's like tying up a shoelace.
It's kind of like, you're just doing it because you love it. Like
do you
don't
get
really
nervous before games? Because
I get nervous before games. Like
I think it's a good
usually
thing.
Pretty good. Like usually I'm all right. Like, but yeah, I definitely do get a little nervous, and probably yeah, probably now like there's a bit more like responsibility too. So.
Yeah. I think about 10 years ago, I lived in Queensland. I was probably obviously growing up in Melbourne. It's very AFL dominated. Mind you, though, biggest bragger of the Storm ever, because it's like you guys love NRL and give it more attention than we do. Yet our team's kind of always beaten yours. It's a bit like the Sydney Swans fans with us. But when I lived in Queensland, Origin was like the first thing that got me into league. I was like, fuck, this sport is off its head.
Yeah, it's good.
Like all of a sudden I was wearing maroon and I was like going off at New South Wales people. I'm like, I'm from Melbourne.
Yeah.
Like, how does this work? Yeah, I hate you, fucking prick, you know.
Best mate at work.
Yeah, through a hook. Well, whoops, sorry. Nah, but can you tell me like how amazing it was to be a part of an Origin series, but then obviously to win it too?
Yeah. I think, like I said before, like I was very fortunate, like timing. Like my first one was like a Origin series that we'll never ever probably experience again. Like it was at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And we had like 3 games in like sort of a row after the season had finished.
Right.
We were in this camp for like 4.5 weeks together, like locked down because of COVID. And it was just like, that was such like incredible. Like it was kind of so weird. Like we were written off, like we had no chance. But I made my debut in a decider at Suncorp Stadium, and it was somehow like through all the rules of COVID, Suncorp could be packed. Yeah, it was just like cheering. Yeah. So, but like I said, like if I didn't go the West Tigers, like I wouldn't have had that opportunity to play Origin that year. And then that was such a fun camp. And
what's it like in the camps there? And obviously this is probably a little bit on the Kangaroos camp, because obviously when you play at the Storm, you have great camaraderie, but you go home, you come back the next day. Whereas those camps, you kind of go back to the same place and you're around each other all the time.
Yeah.
Is it fun? Like, do they make it lighthearted? Because I feel like NRL's got a good culture with that.
Yeah. It's real fun, like very lighthearted. Like Origin is always known for like, you know, especially Queensland, like just the connection and like the people involved. Like, you know, you get Alfie Langer and like he's just like the glue, just bringing it all together.
Really?
It's just like, but like, it's such a, you know, you go there and you all have like something in common. It's like you're from Queensland and you know, you've grown up wanting to play for Queensland. It's like that's straight away just a bond.
Yeah.
And then you just build on that through the week. It's like a lot of you know what it's like.
Yeah, it's mate,
a lot of time together,
just
like
banter.
just fun time. Yeah, banter. Like
who are the larrikins?
Cards.
Like who are the biggest larrikins for you? Like are the ones that you like when you go into camp, you look forward to like having a yarn with and shit?
Heaps. Like all the boys, like they're such good.
Seriously, like, mate, it just looks like fun.
Like such good crew. Like my first, like that 2020 Origin camp. Like I reckon, I don't know, like I'll count on one hand the amount of times that Big Tino from the Titans, like he was at the Storm that year, but like we played together down here.
Yeah.
Like he didn't sleep in my room. Like he was just sleeping in my room every night. Like, cause he just like, you know what I mean? Like that's just like,
that's how it is.
Yeah. It's just like the togetherness and that. And
I think you said that about Brandon Smith before as well. He used to just knock on people's doors and be like, what are you up to in here? Like looked in like a street kid, like what's going on? And then fall asleep in your house.
Yeah, fall asleep on your couch.
Like that's
you wake
not
up. You wake up the next morning. You're like going in to make brekkie, and Brandon's just on your couch.
What the fuck?
Where'd you come from?
Oh, that's so good.
Got spare keys.
Oh shit!
But the Origin, like the World Cup was the same. Like when we first went over, like Mel was like, he was just like everyone's gonna get a game, like no matter what. Like
really from the get go.
Yeah, he's like anyone in the squad here is gonna get a game. So like, I think it just set everyone off on a good like note, because everyone knew like, oh, we're all mates here. Like we're all like gonna get a game. Like let's just enjoy this.
Yeah.
And that was like, from the start, like the connection, like so much time together, because you're in the UK, like. The only real thing to do is go to the pub, drink beer.
Were you guys allowed to do that?
They encouraged it. Yeah.
Encouraged?
Often. Yeah, they encouraged it.
Through a World Cup. Mate, you know the Socceroos, if one Socceroo was seen at the World Cup in a pub having a beer, he'd be obliterated.
Really?
Yeah, he or she would be obliterated.
Nah, so Mel's...
So I love NRL.
Mel's been in there for like years, you know, like coach, but like as a player. So like he's got all the boys, old school boys, like the Axe, Trev Gilmeister and that with him. And they're just bringing in like what they did back in their day. And it's like, they call it the emus. So if like you're not playing that week, say we had a squad of, I think it was like 24 maybe, I don't know, 23. So if you're not playing that week, you have to go out. So like say the 18, 19. So then there's 4, 5 players that have to go out the night before the game with the staff and go and have like, that's what they're like doing. They're like,
oh
you gotta
my
go
God.
and have, yeah, they call them the emus. Like you got to go and have a beer with
It's a good way to keep team morale high.
Keep team morale high, like connection, like even lighthearted the next morning. Like you come and you're like, Jason, like the boys, like, how'd you go, boys? Did you have a good night? Like,
that's so good,
like,
man.
You're going to play like a test match, but you're just like relaxed. You know what I mean? Like it's just, yeah.
That's pretty rare. So when you went to the World Cup, naturally going as Australia, there's always pressure. How did you guys cope with that? Like, were you guys touted as that you should be winning the World Cup? I mean, was that sort of an internal thing? I know there was a want to win it, but I mean, everyone kind of probably expected it too.
Yeah.
Which is tough.
I think it was like, we'll probably rank like, you know, I don't think we'll actually rank number one, but they were like, you know, punters were like, you should be number one. But
yeah,
I think just as a team, we're just like, well, let's enjoy this. Like, let's build into the competition. And you look around, like everyone was like in the team, like looking around, and you're like, fuck, man, we got some good players here.
Yeah, it's pretty elite, man.
You know, we probably didn't play our best against New Zealand, so we're very lucky we got away with that game, and then that got us into the final. So did you have like family and stuff go over at the time, or were you just literally stuck with the boys? Or nah, so we were stuck with the boys, but like my mum and dad came over. They travelled a fair bit with Benny Hunt's mum and dad, because Benny's from like near where I'm from, and so they'd known each other previously, so they travelled and they were just travelling, and then wherever we'd played, like they'd end up there.
Right.
So like I've seen them a little bit, but I didn't see them too much. And then my missus came over sort of like the last probably week.
Oh, okay.
And I was just like, the last week, I was like, I was a bit like selfish. I was just like,
well, obviously.
No, like I've been doing this the whole time with the boys. Like I'm.
That buys you brownie points with the boys too. Yeah. Jack, he hasn't brought his missus along.
Yeah.
Yeah, surprisingly.
But yeah, everyone had like sort of a bit of a balance. Like their family would come in at different times.
Yeah.
So it was like, yeah, sometimes like they'll be like, you know, hang out with their family or them with the boys. But yeah, predominantly it was just everyone together.
Who for you through that camp, like even though you played against pretty much everyone, who for you in that camp was like just always impressive? Like you're like, this guy's a beast.
As in like
just like performance,
yeah,
like on the field,
that.
Standards, like actual output as well. Like one that really drove sort of.
I've been asked this a couple of times. Like I feel like because I've been in a couple of camps with like the Queensland boys and like grew up with like playing alongside them and that, like you know what they're like.
So it's not as
so,
as
yeah,
shock.
It's not as a shock. So like it's probably also like go like Nathan or like James Tedesco, like Nathan Cleary, Tedesco, like those two boys put in a lot of time. And like there was one day we all finished captain's run, we were all on the bus leaving, and Nathan's still on the field like kicking.
Oh really?
You know, and it's just like that's just like
little things like that.
Yeah, just like we're all on the bus, like getting out of there, going, you know, UK is cold. Like let's go home and have a spa or something. Like, and then Nathan's still on the field kicking.
It's funny, man, because when sometimes kids do that now, like in rep teams and stuff, people look at him like, oh, they're just showing off or they're trying to show the coat. But then when you start winning premierships and World Cups, then you're like, well, that's fucking why.
It's got merit to it.
Yeah,
like,
it's got, you know what I mean?
Work, you get rewarded. It's like no matter what you do, you put a lot of time and effort into it. It's like you.
Is it hard as an opposition? I can imagine playing against Cleary fucking be hard because he's just turning you around. He's like a bit unpredictable. He can execute at most skill sets.
So many like strings to his bow. But I feel like it'd probably be different playing against him now. Like now that I know him as a person, you know what I mean? I didn't know him before that.
Have you played against him since?
No, I haven't played against him since.
That'd be funny.
Yeah. So, but no, it's it's. I feel like once you play with someone, you're a bit more aware of like their strengths and that, and like what they do. So it's like, maybe he's got a few strings still up his.
Probably. Well, Harry Grant's got some too.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Chip and chase.
Yeah, true.
Chip and chase. Nah, so this is a bit of a selfish question. There's only a couple more, but this one's a bit of a selfish one because I'm obviously a soccer guy. My mum's family's from Manchester, so Old Trafford when you played there, was it the World Cup finals there?
Yeah, that was World Cup final.
Yeah, what the is that? Crazy?
Yeah.
Was that crazy, that whole experience?
We went to a game earlier in the camp, and like we went there and it was full. It was just like we were like, shit, if we get to the final, like we're playing here. It was just like
Jesus.
But yeah, it was just like holy, like it was crazy. But then like I don't know. I think it was just like looking back on it. It's like I look at like some of the players that have played NRL, some of the players that have played for Australia, and like they've never got the chance to play in a World Cup or a World Cup final or at Old Trafford. Yeah. So it's kind of like at the time I was like, yeah, like soak it in, but like it's probably something down the track you'll look back and go, yeah. You know, that's not many people get the chance to play there.
Crazy. There was a lot of people that actually thought like Samoa would probably win as well, like because they were pretty impressive the whole tournament. Yeah, so it wasn't like an easy game.
No, definitely not.
Did you expect to be playing like could you see them doing what they were doing?
Yeah, we sort of expected like it was England or Samoa, right? Like, but we just knew like we had to like perform, like we had to beat New Zealand to get there. Like New Zealand were like. They had a fair side too.
There's a really good photo with you and Brandon Smith as well, like in each other's other's jerseys or something. Yeah, I was like, this is kind of
there's like his was like triple XL. I don't know what his.
Yours
must have had a fair bit of time on the buffet over there.
Yeah, extra small for him though, probably. Oh mate, that was good, man. Probably the only thing I really wanted to ask you was just a bit more about who you are outside of the field, because I feel like you'd be, quite good at separating your life from footy in some regards, maybe because of your upbringing. I don't know if I'm right on that. It's just my gut feel, but
in some regards, like I feel like it's your job, like it's your passion, like you put a lot of time into it. Like I do in a sense, but yeah, I like being outdoors. Like I just like being away from stuff. Like I grew up, we didn't have an Xbox or PlayStation or anything like that. I wouldn't know how to play one now.
Terrible at that one,
it'd be terrible. So I was just always, as a kid, like I had 3 older brothers, so we were always just outside, doing something, like running amok outside. So
that's why you got the sus bus.
Yeah, that's why I got the sus bus. Now I like my surfing and like and my brothers are right into their fishing. Like I didn't get into it when I was younger, but I've got into it now. So I like like I said, anything outdoors. I'm all for it.
But mate, beautiful. This is a final question. This is what we ask all the guests that come on the show. So we attest 3 successful traits to athletes, people in business, whatever. All 3 are probably important, but the one that resonates with you the most in your journey, out of resilience, drive, or ambition, which one was critical to Harry Grant becoming Harry Grant?
Resilience and drive. Can you put them in together?
He's gone rive. Yeah, we'll just take the D off drive. Yeah. So why is that? Like, what for you? Like, just the consistency of you having to turn up and fight for doing your spot.
Yeah, everyone's going to sort of face a bit of something, but if there's something you want, you got to go after it. You got to chase it. And it will come. Like if you put the time into it, it'll come eventually. Like. Can't just shit the bed and go, oh no, it's not meant to be. Like you just, I feel like there's a lot of athletes like that are probably in the same boat. Like don't have things go right for them to start or early in their career or whenever, but you get over the hill.
Mate, well said. Well, hopefully we see you soon as a premiership winner with the Storm, but you've done a lot in the game already, mate, and it's great to see you thriving. And thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Thank you.
We'll
one more thing. What's the story? I heard there's a spa named after you.
Oh, I know who you spoke to. It's called the Jacuzzi.
The Jacuzzi.
Yeah, Jacuzzi.
Was it 5 days on a millionaire's yacht?
And then the actual captain of the boat, he's so, like, we got a great relationship because he was trying to be professional and I kept corrupting him. I'm like, mate, you shook my hand. You said you'd have a beer with us tonight. Like, just take the cap off and come let the hair down. And we won him. Next thing you know, like, second beer in, he started ordering shots and we like let his hair loose. But now I message him all the time, and every time he like walks past the spa or the jacuzzi.
That's where you spent most of your time, wasn't it?
Well, I couldn't get out of it.
You couldn't get out of it?
Heaven. As soon as the sun dropped, it was cold everywhere else. I'd sit there and then everyone would just start gravitating, and then we called it the Jacuzzi, amongst other reasons.
I hope he anchored the boat when he come for a beer.
So yeah, he keeps sending me photos like, oh, we cleaned out the Jacuzzi today. Oh, here's the Jacuzzi. I'm like, okay, I get it. But no, mate.
Oh, there we go.
There's a few candidates speaking to the Storm officers, I see.
No. Just you got to do your research. Hey?
You've done well. Thank you, mate. Been a pleasure, and good luck for the weekend.
All good. Thank you very much.
Cheers.